Guys, it's Lost in Plot, and today we're doing The Batman.
That's right, it's the big one. This new iteration of Batman comes to us from Matt Reeves. He is the co-writer and director of the film. Matt Reeves is known for the Planet of the Apes franchise. He did an adaptation of the Swedish vampire film Let the Right One In as well.
I like that one. Now, this has got to be the most anticipated movie for not only this year, but probably of like the last 2 years. It's got to be.
You think so?
Yeah. Everybody's been looking forward to this ever since the trailer dropped with the Nirvana song. This has been like the cool Batman. Everybody's been into it. They've been all about it. Ready to see this movie.
Yeah, it's going to make a ton of money, too. It's going to make a shitload of money. Question is it good? And what we've got here is absolutely a mixed bag of sorts. So let's talk about the story first and foremost.
Yeah, talk about the story, because I didn't fucking see it. Because I didn't go out there amongst all the crowd of rabid fanboys and sit there and try to watch this movie.
I sat down.
Well, that's why you're going to tell us about it.
Let's talk about the story. So the story centers on a murder, a crime. Batman's been operating for about 2 years now, and then there is a grisly murder that he starts to investigate, and it is picking at pieces of a puzzle for a grand conspiracy in Gotham City that's going to rock the entire city and all of its infrastructure down to its core. So Batman is really developing as a character. He's learning that he needs to be more than an instrument of fear, striking fear into the people of the city.
Detective Batman. Yes? This is Detective Batman. That's the
we'll
angle.
Get to that. We'll get to that.
That's the angle.
But his character is coming to realize that he needs to be more than that. Then striking fear and terror into the populace is not enough for what his goals are for Gotham City. And that's kind of our story arc for The Batman from Matt Reeves. So what we have here is basically Chinatown. Chinatown with Batman instead of J.J. Gittes. So this film wears its references right on its sleeve. And there's a lot of them. Chinatown being probably the biggest one, because it is very much a film noir, and it follows that classic film noir story structure for most of the film. All right, so tell me this then, because recently we had Joker, which was basically Taxi Driver with Joker, and they wore its references on the sleeves. Is this what we're going to do now? We're going to take classic, hard-boiled 70s films or things of that nature that were classics and try to dress them up in IPs to give you something new? Is that the trend? Yeah, and I see a little bit of that. But whereas Joker was definitely a 70s era film, this one is absolutely a modern-day film, but with all the classic noir trappings to it. And another reference that it wears on its sleeve is Seven, is the John Doe character, which the Riddler is absolutely patterned off for this film. They even lift a line almost verbatim at one point in the film from something John Doe says in Seven. So I kind of would have preferred a more unique, original take on this, but it very much is kind of put in the box of the classic film noir kind of storyline up to a point, because I think what they realized was, people that are going there and looking for action, this is not a big action film. This is more of the detective story. And I think that made the studio nervous, which I'll get into in a little bit when we talk about the third act problem.
All right, well, don't leave this one area too quick, because is this an original vision, or is this just cribbing from other greater movies of the past?
It's a little bit of both. It is very much an original vision, as in you're going to see Batman doing a lot of things that you haven't seen him done before. But at the same time, the story structure is very similar to a classic noir in that replace the hard-boiled gumshoe detective with Batman.
And emo Batman.
Right.
And was it emo Batman?
All the other players are kind of the same. You've got Selena Kyle, Catwoman as the femme fatale. You've got red herrings. You've got all these different crime bosses. You've got Carmine Falcone. You've got the Penguin. And, of course, you've got the Riddler in the middle of it, this brutal serial killer who's committing all these grisly murders of city officials.
Okay. All right, so that's a take. That doesn't sound bad. It seems like
There's a lot to like here.
end.
There's a lot to like here. And for the first The first act, probably, the thing that I liked the most was what Matt Reeves is doing with the camera. So the film opens and he actually puts you in the perspective of the Riddler about to commit his first murder. He's watching his victim through a window, he's breathing heavily, he's getting ready, it's building up suspense and tension, and that scene absolutely delivers. It's awesome. And like the camera is moving, and it's in a lot of different places where you would not expect it to be, and it's very interesting and compelling. And we're picking up with Rob Pattinson as Batman and learning about how his take is going to be different. So, and in that first act, it's pretty cool. There's a lot to like. I'm just like,
we're saying
awesome
we're saying
stuff.
a lot of good things there, but let's get to it because there's a mixed bag here. So, what detracted from this? What took away?
What detracted from this was, for me, the third act is just a total disaster. Because to me, I know this film went through reshoots last summer. We don't know exactly the extent or the reason why, but we know that it did go through reshoots, and I suspect that the studio was not happy with the film that Matt Reeves gave them initially, which I think was pretty much a straightforward noir detective story. And they said, wait. This is Batman. This is Batman. There needs to be a Chris Nolan action set piece. Where's that? Where am I getting that? Because it wasn't in the Matt Reeves film that was initially delivered. So in the third act, you get this very bloated action set piece that is disjointed from the rest of the film. The entire film feels incongruous because of how they ended it at the end. You'll know it sticks out like a sore thumb. At least it did for me.
Well, what? Just a big bloated action set piece that didn't seem to fit. So maybe
Exactly.
that's a double-edged sword of doing Batman. You get all the attention, but if you really want to do an authentic version of a story, you're also handicapped by Batman and the expectations that come with it and that people have. So you can't tell your true vision.
And I really think that's what happened. I think they watched the story that Matt Reeves gave them, and they said, "This isn't enough. People
There's
aren't
not
gonna
enough
be happy
fighting.
with this."
There's not enough action.
Yeah.
God damn it.
And I will say, for younger audiences, for kids and stuff like that, they're probably going to be bored because
Really?
this is not like
Boring Batman for
your
younger
typical
audiences.
Well, do you think a film noir is going to excite young kids?
Gener-
With not a lot of action?
Generally not.
Not a lot of action. More of the detective, and the detective scenes are really, really good. Like, there are moments where the Batman is walking through, everybody's eyeing him nervously, and he's just kind of stoically assessing the scene and picking out the details. That stuff's great. But if you're looking for the high-octane action of prior Batman films, you're not going to find it here. You'll find it sporadically in parts, but not all the way through. And I think that's what made them nervous and why they tacked on this bombastic, ridiculous end piece when basically almost everything in the film has been pretty much resolved. And then you get your giant action set piece kind of shoehorned in there right at the end.
So they shit on it right at the end. Now, as noirs go, is this more Nightmare Alley or is this Hugh Jackman's Reminiscence?
It's kind of in between. Like, you're not.
Which one is it closer to?
Reminiscence.
Oh no! Oh God!
Yeah, but I wouldn't go that far because at the beginning, Matt Reeves is doing awesome things with the camera, but at the end, you know, that the story structure that he went for is not very unique or compelling, and you see the references, right? You see the references. You see Chinatown. You see J.J. Gittes. You see Seven and John Doe. Like, you see the references, and you're just like, yeah.
Yeah, that's just stealing from other
works.
works.
Yeah,
and they're not lesser-known works. They're really well-known works. These are seminal classics of their time. If you know anything about film and you've been alive long enough, you've seen these movies. And they were original visions at their time. And you're just taking from them and using it as your own? Just because you put a bat suit on it?
Well, that's why I'm sitting there and I'm watching, and a lot of stuff works and is really cool. But at the same time, a lot of stuff just, it doesn't work. Like, it doesn't work. I'll give you an example. At one particular moment, Batman's way up high on a building. He's getting chased by cops. And this is where we're going to see him jump off and use his cape and like do whatever to get away. But instead of a cape, using that as like a hang glider, he puts on, like, you know those flying squirrel suits?
A squirrel suit, like in Far Cry. Yeah? He just flaps his way down.
He hits something, this very unimpressive squirrel suit pops out of his cape, and then he just jumps off the building and flies down that way.
Why did they do that?
Why did they do that? You don't get a whole lot of gadgets here. It's kind of restrained in a lot of ways. I will say that the score done by Michael Giacchino is growing on me. I didn't like it as first, but especially the Riddler theme, that's growing on me. That was pretty well done. The source material that this is really pulling the most from, and I find most of the films now are referring to this graphic novel out of Batman, is The Long Halloween. Chris Nolan did a lot of stuff with that, with The Dark Knight, referencing The Long Halloween. And it's back again here. There's lots of references to that story. And I don't know why they always pull from that same story when they're doing the adaptations. But that's what we get.
All right, well, hit us with it, because there's so much hype surrounding this movie. People are probably in love with it, giving it max scores on reviews before they've even sat down in the chair. The hype is so out of the park on this one.
Yeah.
So what does it come down for?
Well, it's coming down at a 5 out of 10 and dead for me. There were things that I really liked and really enjoyed and thought were cool.
That's not good enough. That's not good. All right? The Batman series with the Suicide Squad and the DC, for this movie to come in at a 5, that's not good enough. When you start making Batman boring, you done fucked up. And you gotta change. You gotta go do something else.
Now,
that's not good enough.
You said boring. I didn't say boring. I think you're interpreting boring from what I've been talking
about. A 5
about.
out of 10 is a boring score.
5 out of 10 because
5 out of 10 is bad.
Things didn't work. And you know what? If you didn't have that ridiculous set piece at the end of the film, you probably would have been a 6 or a 7, because it would have been just, this is a good Batman film done in a kind of film noir motif.
All right, how is the Batman? How is Rob Pattinson as Batman? Is he one of the best? Is he the worst? Is he somewhere in the middle?
He's a mixed bag again, because as Bruce Wayne, he's entirely uninteresting. He does far too much whispering. I don't know why he still whispers when he's playing Bruce Wayne. He doesn't talk.
Who are you whispering?
But Bruce Wayne is never really developed. As Batman, he does have some very good moments where he does kind of convey this intimidation and this ferocity to him that I wasn't expecting. I didn't know if he'd be able to pull that off. He does pull it off. When you see it, you'll be able to tell. It's like, well, this is mixed. Like, some things hit really well, and some things just don't. And you get to that third act, and it's just so blown apart from the rest of the film that you're just like, I don't know what you're doing now. And then I think the worst part for me, the very, very worst part, is they did like this awful tease of, what could be the Joker or whatever. It's like one of these weird things. It's like, we want to tease the possibility of the Joker, but we haven't cast the actor yet. So maybe we just kind of fake it and have some no-name actor in a corner pretending like he's the Joker and having this girly laugh like he might be the Joker to kind of tease you that we might do a sequel. And it's horrible. It's so bad.
Now you say that, but were the fanboys you were sitting around, did they start buzzing at that point? No?
No. Because everyone's just trying to look and see, well, who is it? Who would play the Joker? Who is it? And, you don't get anything. And I think it's because they haven't cast him, which they haven't. So you got some poor son of a bitch in there who's just trying to, just teasing you. And, they never actually say it. And I think Matt Reeves, even in interviews, is he won't commit to it. It's it's just bullshit tease. Get it out of there. Get it out of there. It didn't need to be in there. But the other thing that's striking about it is there are murders in here that are shot really, really well, and they are grisly, graphic murders done by the Riddler, which are really... I love that shit. That's probably my favorite part. It was really cool, some of the murder scenes and the ways that he kills his victims. And then they even curse in there for no reason at all. They toss in a fuck.
Who gets it? The Riddler? Penguin?
No, one of the cops.
Oh.
One of the cops at the beginning of the film says, "Happy fucking Halloween." Just out of nowhere. So, that's the heavier stuff that I don't know if you're anticipating younger audiences that might be a little bit bored with a noir storyline. It's kind of a slow development detective story as opposed to the high octane action of the prior Batman films. So there's some good. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't work. At the end, it's 5 out of 10. It's dead.
And that's probably about as in-depth as we can get without getting into spoiler territory. So there it is. If you've seen The Batman, leave your comments down below. Like and subscribe. Check us out on Twitter. And we'll see you all in the next one.